It's another day and another week for dropping EVs around the world as we spread the news of a lot of cars hitting the market, and none other than Audi comes to market with, of course, the 2022 Audi Q4 e-tron and Q4 Sportback. We're going to cover that today. My name is Paul Barron. This is TechPath. Let's dive into it because Audi has been one of those early players in the electric space with their e-tron series and have done fairly well with that product. In fact, I've seen it. I have not been able to drive one, but have physically looked at the cars. You know, they're running around here in South Florida all the time. And it's a beautiful vehicle. I love the e-tron series. Very sexy, very aggressive looking. Definitely has what I think are the chops to really go head to head with, of course, none other than Tesla, but also some of the ICE cars that they will be tracking against. This car is expected to drop this year at the end of 2021, which I think is going to be interesting to see because this will be, again, there's only a handful of cars really that are going to be fully electric that will be available for consumers to purchase outside of what we've seen from GM, Ford, and of course Tesla. So nice to see a German automaker really kind of coming to the table, and Audi is doing it. The e-tron model line is planned to start at under $45,000. This is a very interesting price. I like the price. Definitely like where they're going with it. Being the Q4, I'm just kind of curious how it compares up against the Q5. This, because Audi sometimes does this. I don't know if you've driven many Audis out there, but if you go from the Q7 to the Q5, the Q7 is a big SUV. The Q5 is a moderately small SUV that I would compare maybe to the C-Class in the Mercedes-Benz. Then you drop down to the Q3, which essentially is kind of the mini version of this vehicle. I don't know if this is comparing, being the Q4 e-tron, is comparing to go up against the i4 that BMW has on the market right now, soon to be released. Not on the market, but soon to be released, their i4 electric. So that could be the target zone for Audi in terms of the market. Even though I think this will rob from some of their other sales. The Q5 is the #1 selling SUV for Audi. I think that's why they maybe entered with the Q4 to give that Q5 some still end-of-life potential before they drop a Q5 electric. So there's a lot of things happening here with Audi. The good thing is they plan to have more fully electric vehicle models on sale in the U.S. than any other luxury brand by the end of 2021. This tells me they are racing to get the business of the electric vehicle market and the consumers that are starting to shift over very quickly. The question is going to be, in my opinion, is going to be how can they compete directly against their big competitors being Mercedes and also BMW, because this is basically the buyer that you're looking at, and will they be able to kind of sway some of those over because they're an early mover on the EV space? That'll be the big question. So early sales numbers will be the pretty much the telltale of how Audi is doing with their electric program. The Q4 achieves a drag coefficient of 0.028, and the Q4 Sportback e-tron gets an even lower figure with a drag coefficient of 0.26. So these cars are really sexy looking from the outside. The Matrix design LED headlights with customizable daytime running lights. Very cool. It's a world's first, supposedly, according to Audi. Also, the driver can switch between 4 running light signatures in the MMI touch operating system. That just seems to me a little bit overdone. I know that's fun. You want to start kind of playing with it. I mean, and of course, Tesla, of course, does it as well with everything from, you know, the fart application to now the boombox. There's some things that on these cars that are kind of fun to play with. So maybe that's the direction that Audi's trying to go. The other thing, at the rear, a light strip basically links the taillight units to each other and is available with both animated coming home and leaving home functions. Cool feature. Like that one. A choice of 4 different exterior colors is available with the S-Line, and black optic exterior elements offered as well. I think that's going to be kind of cool. Basically, it's just blacking out a lot of those chrome treatments that most of these vehicles have. So that's kind of be cool. Here's a feature, though, that I thought was really interesting, and that is the steering wheel with capacitive hands-on detection. So if capacitive is being used, capacitive, just so you guys are aware, it's often used in touchscreen. Capacitive touch is a very accurate way to determine what kind of touch controls you need. And if this is happening on a steering wheel, That might be very good for autonomous driving, obviously an autopilot application, and maybe even hand gestures in the future on a steering wheel. Why would you need a blinker if you could just squeeze or do something through a capacitive touch application, which I think will be very interesting on this car. I don't know that much about it. I want to dive into that one a little bit deeper. Interior space is comparable to Audi's best-selling Q5. This is where I find this a little confusing of why they went this route as opposed to just going ahead and releasing a Q5 electric version and keeping the ICE version, and let's see what happens. Go best-selling to best-selling and see what would kind of come out of the marketplace. But the key here with Q5 is that the Q4 in the e-tron is actually going to have about the same amount of space. So that's a big deal. Impressive packaging and extra space due to the elimination of the traditional center tunnel. And the feeling of spacious is not just confirmed in the front seats. You get generous legroom. Passengers in the rear also are going to benefit from this. So you kind of get this whole EV feel that you get with obviously the known model being the Tesla. And now the question is whether this is going directly at, I feel like it's going directly at the Model Y if you're looking at, hey, I'm an EV buyer and I'm thinking about one or two. But here's where I feel like this car starts to lose its appeal to me. And that is on the 10.1 inch MMI touch display, basically on the dash. It's basically a digital instrument cluster for kind of an optional virtual cockpit. It does have an augmented reality heads-up display, but I want you to kind of look at the dash design here, because to me, this has a lot of the design cues that are coming from old Audis. Definitely a lot of buttons, definitely not that major screen interface that we've seen a lot of EVs shifting to. And it feels as though this interior was just rushed a little bit. And I think that, I mean, for you to be able to come out with a 2021 lineup of electric vehicles, Audi, I feel, might be rushing this a little. And we'll find out, because the key is going to be in the sales numbers. And this is going up against some pretty heavy competition the end of this year, because we do see a lot of activity. And of course, Tesla's with their recent Q1 sales bonanza is going to be interesting to watch, especially around end of Q3 and Q4, which, if you have not had a chance to check out my EV forecast video, you got to check that one out, because it talks about how EV sales overall will be affecting the industry, but even more importantly is Tesla's numbers by the first of next year. So all of this is going to apply, because really when the market shakes out at the end of the year with all these different companies dropping cars, and especially with Audi kind of coming to one of the first ones really to the driveway, this is going to be very interesting, because just the competition alone is going to really start to set the pace and maybe give a little bit of a precursor for how EV sales can rack up against ICE vehicles and also against Tesla. Let's go also into the estimated output on this one, about 220 kilowatts. Audi is offering the e-tron basically in a 55 kilowatt and an 82 kilowatt battery pack. Basically the test cycles, EPA, approximately 250 on what I would say is going to be the entry-level e-tron, and trying to go to a range of up to 323 miles. If they can get up to the 323 miles on a single charge based on the WLTP cycle, this could give that a head-on with the Model 3 and the Model Y with range. So if you're priced just under Tesla and you're able to get into the range, I think that's going to be the question, is if you get that 82 kilowatt hour pack, is what is that going to do to the price? Is it going to push it over to the $50,000 mark, which will be right in line with the Model Y? So very interesting scenarios here. This could become a very interesting trade-off for the buyer. If you're a buyer or you're a currently Audi owner, this might be the car for you, because of the fact that it's going to have a lot of the same creature comforts that you're used to, because that's something that I do see from time to time on people that ride in my own Tesla, is they are kind of freaked out by the lack of buttons. They're always worried about being able to just turn on wipers and all these different features that you need typically buttons or stock controls for. And with a Tesla, it's all on the center screen. And even my own wife, she has a real problem with that. But the thing about that is they quickly learn how to interface and use the tools. And I'm estimating that that's going to continue to only get better because of the software update. That's where I have a problem with legacy automakers. They are not thinking about dropping software to eliminate all of this hardware requirement so that you can constantly upgrade it and keep it moving. Example, being able to drop a software, version 9 with Tesla is gonna change the entire UI on the Tesla automobiles. Because of that, it's gonna make things easier and faster to gain access to, including all of your car controls. If it's a dash full of buttons, you're not changing that in the vehicle ever. So you are kind of locked into the analog and mechanical function of the vehicle's buttons and all the things it can do. And maybe you've got a little bit of a software update that could help you maybe on efficiency and some other things, but you're definitely not gonna see new features. So the over-the-air update is gonna be, I think, still a killer app for Tesla, and it's gonna be one of those things that many EV makers have gotta go and get to that point. Now this one will be able to do DC fast charge up to 125 kilowatts per hour, 5 to 80% in 38 minutes. I like this number. Audi is on the right track in terms of getting a vehicle to market. That's the first good move. The second is they're getting the range in there. That's a good move. And it's a fast charger. That's the third good move. You get those kind of things going for you, and you put those 4 big circles up there on the front of that badge, and you might have a winner here. But in my opinion, it's old school automotive trying to jump into new school tech and is not just quite doing it just yet. So we'll see how this one wraps up. I'm going to continue to follow this one. Audi is just so I'm perfectly clear, I love the Audi brand. It's a great product and have owned many of them and can't ever complain because the serviceability of those vehicles and the quality of them is absolutely unbelievable. I would put it up there right with Tesla, or I'm sorry, with Toyota and Lexus in the ability to drive those cars for a very long time. So if that stays with the car and continues and you get all these other perks and benefits and you're not a geek freak on EV, meaning you want all of these new features and kind of these new software updates and advantages that maybe a company like Tesla or others, maybe a Rivian, would bring to you, even though a Rivian is a pickup, even though Rivian is now producing their SUV version, which will go head-to-head with the Audi Q8. That's going to, and the Q7, actually, the Q7, that's going to be an interesting thing to see how some of the bigger SUVs kind of line up and do all these things. So lots more coming. Man, this is crazy in terms of the number of automakers that have literally pinned their ears back and gone whole hog into doing and getting their EVs on the market. I have to say kudos to the ICE industry. They see how far behind they are, and they are making moves in a big way. Make sure and stay tuned right here on TechPath for more great stuff and coverage. Checking us out on the podcast. Subscribe over there. You can listen to the audio version in your new Audi Q4 e-tron and just tune right in. Hopefully it's plugged into Spotify and it will pop right up on your screen like it does in my Tesla. Again, more Tesla dropping, I always do it. And of course, you can always check me out on Twitter at Paul Barron. And again, always, if you have an idea for the show, send us an email. I know that's the old school way, but it's a great way to reach out to our producers, which is just producer@reverendnetworks.com. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.